Okay, the next question is, Assalamu alaikum. I received a message from a sister. Please can Shaykh reply to this matter in either written or audio as to how to reply to such matters. Jazakallahu khairan baraka fikum. Assalamu alaikum. Does anyone have any thoughts on the demolition of Sufis shrines in Libya? They are blaming Salafis for it, and there's a lot of ranting against violent extremist Wahhabis going on in cyberspace. I'm no fan of Sufism shrines, saints, and grave worshiping, but it seems to me that barging in and tearing things apart without trying to explain why these things are objectionable, or trying to educate the people, or at least have a discussion or dialogue with them, is counterproductive and extreme. Wouldn't a gentler, long-term approach be more effective? A Sufi friend said that the violent approach turns her off completely from even listening to whatever the Salafis have to say, and I can understand where she's coming from. I grew up under the shadow of terrorism in my country of birth for the longest time, and I never wanted to know why those people's what those people's cause was. I just hated them and their wanting of destruction and death, usually of people even unconnected to the issue, but happened to live in the enemy's land they caused. Later on, began to see that they might just have a point or a reason to feel that way, the way they did. But I still object to the force, destruction, and violence as primary means of getting one's point across. All of this is a bit of long-winded way of saying I don't know how to respond to situations like this, and I'm wondering what others think. So basically, this sister is asking about statues in Libya, shrines in Libya, that some who she says are Salafi are going and destroying them. She's asking whether a long-term, gentler approach would be better. Before I answer that simple question, let me give an introduction. Allah in the Quran said a very important verse. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَنْ يُشْرَكَ بِهِ وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ. إن الله لا يغفر أن يشرك به ويغفر ما دون ذلك لمن يشاء. This is the verse that's mentioned 2 times in Surah An-Nisa, in word for word. It's the verse that's considered the most hopeful verse in the Quran. That's what scholars call it. أرجى آية في القرآن. The most hopeful verse in the Quran, because it gives a lot of hope for forgiveness. Mentioned twice in one surah. Verily, Allah forgives not that partners should be set up with Him, but He forgives anything else less than that, to whom He wills. So basically, Allah forgives anything less than shirk. Yahya bin Mu'adh, the famous scholar, said, إِنَّ لِلتَّوْحِيدِ نُورًا وَلِلشِّرْكِ نَارًا وَإِنَّ نُورَ التَّوْحِيدِ أحرق لسيئات الموحدين من نار الشرك لحسنات المشركين. Very important statement. Let me translate it for you. He said, for Tawheed is brightness. Tawheed is nur and brightness. And for shirk is fire and nar. The flame of the brightness of Tawheed burns the sins of the muwahhideen, those who establish Tawheed. The flame of brightness of Tawheed burns the sins of the muwahhideen. And the flame in the fire of the shirk burns the deeds of the mushrikeen. Shows you the danger of shirk and the privilege and honor of Tawheed. Tawheed is the foundation of Islam. What happens with most of these shrines that we're talking about here is that they start off regular graves, probably leveled, like the Prophet ﷺ's grave and other messengers and other righteous people. As time goes by, they raise it a little bit. Then they put expensive tiles around it. Then they raise it a meter or so above the earth. Then sometimes they place brass walls in a room-like setting, or a nice wall and building around it. Then they place lightnings and buildings around it and scents. And they do exactly what Quraysh used to do back in the old days. Today they call it shrines and mazarat, and back then it was idol worshippers. Same thing. There's no difference in what Quraysh did and what these people do of worshiping those dead by those who claim to be Muslims from this ummah. The only difference is one, I'll tell you. Those used to worship statues above the earth, and these worship dead people under the earth. They seek refuge in them, ask them, call them to help them with that. Only Allah calls them. This is most of the time. This is what I'm talking about most of the time. The reasoning of the mushrikeen back during the Prophet ﷺ is the same reasoning today. They bring us closer to Allah. This is what they told the Prophet ﷺ, and this is what those mushrikeen of our ummah today say. ما نعبدهم, Allah quoted it in the Quran, ما نعبدهم إلا ليقربونا إلى الله زلفى, in Surah Al-Zumar. We only worship them that they may bring us closer to Allah and nearer to Allah. That's the reason they gave. That's the reason they gave back then, and they were considered mushrikeen, and that's what the mushrikeen of our ummah today. No one who came after the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is worthy of a better burial than the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. I don't know of any Muslim who can dispute this fact. Listen to how his grave was when he was buried. Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad, the grandson of Abu Bakr. Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the grandson, went to Aisha once. He said, "Oh mother, show me the grave of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his two friends." And here, even though she's his aunt, not his mother, he called her "oh mother." It's either because she's the mother of the believers, as we all know, or because he was so close to her as an aunt that he considered her a mother. She was a paternal aunt. So she uncovered three graves, Abu Bakr and Umar and the Prophet ﷺ's grave. Muhammad said, he's describing it, he said, it's not high above the ground. The grave wasn't high above the ground. And it wasn't lati'ah. Lati'ah means it wasn't also leveled. It means it was above the ground, maybe a span off the earth, which is permissible and it's okay to do. In fact, the sunnah, a span off the earth, a little bit off the earth, a little bit, so they can know that that's a grave. That's the description of the Prophet ﷺ. Dirt, a span of earth. In Muslim in Abu Dawood, Jabir ibn Abdullah said, "Naha Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam an yujassas al-qabr." The Prophet ﷺ deterred putting a cast or cement over a grave. Yujassas al-qabr. Wa an yuq'ada alayh, or to sit on it. You can't sit on it. Wa an yubna alayh, you can't build on it. The Prophet ﷺ said you can't build on it. Wa an yuzada alayh, and to add to it, meaning the dirt that was from it, keep it from there. Unless you essentially need more dirt, don't use it. Shafi'i clearly said that in his explaining of the hadith. So it can't be too high, except, maybe a span as we mentioned. If this was ordered not to be done to the greatest man to walk on the first face of the earth, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, is anyone after him worthy that his grave be built upon? Are those who build over the graves better than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Are they better than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Is that why they build over their graves, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't even have it over the grave? Or do you think that those men around the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't love him enough to build over his grave when they gave him all their wealth, all their friendship, all the sacrifice that they could give, even their lives and their kids? Listen to their love of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Listen to their obedience to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If it was part of Islam, they would have done it. An Abi Hurairah and Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu anhu, two Sahaba narrated this authentic hadith. Wallahi ma tanakhama Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam nakhama. Wallahi, the Prophet never spit a sputum, never spit a nukhama, sputum. Illa waqa'at fi kaffi rajulin minhum, except that spit landed in the hand of someone of the companions. What do they do with it? فَدَلَكَ بِهَا وَجْهَهُ وَجِلْدَهُ, he would wipe it and rub it over his face and over his body. The spit of the Prophet, the sputum of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَإِذَا أَمَرَهُمْ ابْتَدَرُوا أَمْرَهُ, and if he orders them, they quickly, eagerly carry out his command. وَإِذَا تَوَضَّأَ كَادُوا يَقْتَتِلُونَ عَلَى وُضُوئِهِ, and if he makes wudu, they almost fight each other to get the remainder of his wudu so they can wipe it all over their bodies. وَإِذَا تَكَلَّمَ خَفَضُوا أَصْوَاتَهُمْ عِنْدَهُ. And if he speaks, they lower their voices or go silent in respect to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَمَا يَحُدُّونَ إِلَيْهِ النَّظَرَ تَعْظِيمًا لَهُ. They never look him in the eye in honor and respect for that man sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All that love they had for him. So why didn't they show their love by building over his grave? Because love for him meant that they listened to him. That's the ultimate love. That they listened to him and not build over a grave. That's the true ultimate love. The love restrained by revelation and heavenly guidance from Allah and from him. In Sahih Muslim, عن فضال بن عبيد أنه كان بأرض الروم. Fudal ibn Ubayd went to the land of the Romans one time. One of the men who was with him, فتوفي صاحب لهم. A man who was with him died. So Fudala ibn Ubayd أمر بقبره فسوي. He ordered that his grave be leveled. And after he did that, ثم قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يأمر بتسويته. I heard the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم order that the graves all be leveled. This is the guidance of the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم. In Sahih Muslim, عن علي بن أبي طالب, the famous hadith, بعثني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم sent me on a mission. What was the mission? What was the huge, noble mission, Ali? أن لا أدع تمثالا إلا طمسته ولا قبرا مشرفا إلا سويته. Leave no statue with a facial image except I take away this facial image. And no grave above the earth except that I level it. And then the other hadith, عن عائشة رضي الله عنها and Ibn Mas'ud in Sahih Bukhari. And the Prophet ﷺ on his deathbed said, may Allah curse the Jews and Christians. They took their messengers' graves as masjid. Aisha commented on this hadith, right behind this hadith, said, he's warning us not to do the same. لعنة الله على اليهود والنصارى اتخذوا قبور أنبيائهم مساجدا. تقول عائشة رضي الله عنها يحذر مثل الذي فعلوا. He's warning us not to do the same. The Imams of all four madhabs, all agreed on this matter. You don't raise a grave. Imam Malik rahimahullah, who they claim to follow in Libya, the questions about Libya, he said it's makruh to build or even place rocks over a grave or any casting or any cement like over it. It's makruh by Imam Malik. When he says makruh, we know that it's haram. He always uses the term makruh for matters that are haram. Al-Qurtubi, a Maliki scholar, said building mosques over graves and prayer in it or building on graves is prohibited and not permissible. Qurtubi, which is also a Maliki Imam, one of the biggest Maliki Imams. Shafi'i in his said, I seen the graves of the Muhajirin and Ansar and there was nothing on top of it. Imam Ahmad, Shafi'i said it in his book Imam Ahmad and Abu Hanifa said similar statements. There was nothing built on the graves during the Prophet ﷺ's time. Nothing. In fact, you heard, he ordered that they be leveled. During Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali's time, the guided Khilafah, radiallahu anhum, nothing. During the Sahaba's time, nothing. During the Tabi'in's time, nothing. During the Bani Umayyah's time, nothing. During Bani al-Abbas' time, nothing. This all began to happen when the Qaramita, the evil sect, Qaramita took portions of the Muslim land and began to spread this kind of stuff. One must know it's an important matter to believe that there's no graves, no buildings over graves. This is an order by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's important one because it touches upon Tawheed and Shirk. Once there's Tawheed and Shirk, it's a danger, it's a red zone. This is not a disputed matter. This is not an open-ended issue. There's no room in this matter for dispute and disagreements. No, not at all. This is a firm law of the Sharia of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No prophet, no Sahaba, no Shaheed, no family of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no Imam, no worshipper, no Muslim ever and no one less than that can have anything built on his grave in accordance with the laws of Islam. This is a fact, undisputed, not open-ended issue. Now that we know this issue, we go to the question that it's important not to build over. We address the sister's question, which is the sister's asking about the approach to that. And as I said, this is the first time I hear about this. I never knew this was going on in Libya, and I've never heard of it. I have a lot of catching up to do. She's asking, should they go ahead and demolish it or take their time out and explain it to people? What should they do? And as the sister put it here, she said a long time, kinder approach where you can explain to the people that this is wrong. And as she was convinced of other matters that she says, if they can wait for some time and explain and convince, even when there's Sharia law, that's beyond the doubt the best approach. I doubt anyone would disagree with that. One must be careful into organizing a group of young brothers and taking matters like this into their hands without direction from righteous, knowledgeable, wise ulama. Righteous, knowledgeable, wise ulama. Because even though this is a big munkar, as I mentioned and gave the big intro because of that, the rule is if changing evil, munkar, results in a bigger evil, we don't change it. That's an important rule. So if it results in bloodshed and imprisonments, if the ulama have to, a group of ulama, not one, have to look into matters like, what if they come back and build it more advanced, stronger, and even put guards on it, and have more visitors than before? These matters gotta be studied on case-to-by-case basis before anyone can even think about leveling them, because it may result in some worse evil. I remember Al-Albani was asked a very similar question, and he had a very important answer that I'll never forgive. He said, أزيلوها من قلوبهم أولا. Before you physically go remove it, don't physically go remove it. Remove it from their hearts first. Maybe nearly exactly what the sister's saying exactly and suggesting. That they take time to sit down and teach people Tawheed, and then have them possibly themselves take it down. Something like the intro I gave about the grave just a second ago. Al-Albani rahmatullah alayhi said this even though he was slightly harsh in his personality. And he's a reviver of our time in this matter, in matters of these kind of tawheed. And I really lean and I feel comfortable towards what he said, even though I don't know the circumstances of the whole situation. And finally, let me say that our concern should be in the appropriate channels and tunnels. Let's focus our concerns and put our priorities and set them straight and right. There's rivers of Muslim blood spilling all over the world. That should occupy your concern. More than useless stones on top of the graves. That's my advice. Or even the Kaaba itself. Or even the entire earth. Or even feeling hurt for people's hurt over stones and statues. The Prophet ﷺ said in Sunan al-Nasa'i عن بريدة رضي الله عنه قتل المؤمن أعظم عند الله من زوال الدنيا. The killing of a believer is more cherished, more sacred to Allah than this entire earth. Not there, the stones over these graves, or these rocks over these graves, or the Kaaba itself. The entire earth, the blood of one Muslim is more important than this entire earth. The killing of one believer is more important than to Allah than this entire earth altogether. What's valued to Allah should be valued to us if we truly love Him. Another hadith in Sunan Ibn Majah, the Prophet ﷺ said عن البراء ibn عازب لزوال الدنيا أهون عند الله من قتل امرئ مؤمن بغير حق. For the earth to vanish is easier to Allah than one Muslim being killed unjustly. Lack of sensitivity and lack of care or tears in this matter where there's Muslim blood being spilled in nearly every part of the world, wherever you look at it. If you look in Afghanistan, or if you go to Iraq and look, or in Syria, or in Burma, or in Kashmir, lack of sensitivity about this river of blood that's going on, and crocodile tears over stones in graves that might have been leveled if it's true that it happened.